This war stands in the shadow of the American War of Independence, which ended in 1783. But not even 30 years after its end, another war broke out in North America between the fledgling United States of America against the United Kingdom and its allies. It lasted from 1812 to 1815 and had a profound impact on both nations. This is a look at history. Great that you are here. One of the main causes of the war was the so-called impressment policy of the British. The British Navy forced American sailors who worked on merchant ships into their service. This practice was seen as a serious encroachment on the sovereignty of the United States and led to growing outrage among the American people. In addition, British trade restrictions, which were part of the Napoleonic Wars, led to significant economic losses for the United States. The British blockaded American ports and supported indigenous tribes, which led to further tensions. Another significant factor was British resistance to the westward expansion of the United States. The British supported and armed various indigenous tribes in the Northwest Territory, which led to numerous conflicts and tensions along the frontier. This British support for indigenous resistance movements was seen by many Americans as a direct threat to their territorial ambitions and security. In a speech on June 1, 1812, President James Madison cited several reasons justifying a declaration of war. The forced enlistment of American sailors, attacks on American ships by British warships, the British blockade of American ports, and the incitement of indigenous peoples against the United States. On June 18, 1812, the U.S. Congress declared war against Great Britain. This was the first time the United States officially declared war on another country. However, the decision to go to war was controversial and led to deep division within the country. While many in the South and West supported the war, opposition was strong in the New England states, where trade with Great Britain played an important economic role. The Americans' initial military actions went badly. Attempts to conquer Canada failed miserably. The American troops, poorly equipped and poorly led, were forced to withdraw after several defeats. Battles at this early stage of the war, such as the Battle of Queenston Heights in October 1812, often ended in favor of the British and their indigenous allies. Despite these setbacks, the United States did not give up. One notable success for the Americans was control of Lake Erie, achieved through Oliver Hazard Perry's victory at the Battle of Put-in-Bay in September 1813. This victory enabled the Americans to defeat the British at the Battle of Thames in October 1813, resulting in the death of the important indigenous leader Tecumseh and weakening British control in the Northwest. In 1814, after Napoleon's defeat in Europe, the British stepped up their offensive as they had many more resources at their disposal. They planned a three-pronged offensive that included attacks in the north, south, and east. In August 1814, British troops attacked Washington, D.C. and burned or severely damaged key buildings, including the White House and the Capitol. This attack was in retaliation for the American raid on York, now Toronto, the previous year. A pivotal moment was the defense of Fort McHenry in Baltimore in September 1814. Despite intense bombardment, the fort held out and forced the British to retreat. This event inspired Francis Scott Key to write the poem Defense of Fort McHenry, which was later set to music as The Star-Spangled Banner and eventually became the national anthem of the United States. Another important victory for the Americans was the Battle of New Orleans, which took place on January 8, 1815. General Andrew Jackson led a diverse force of soldiers, militia, pirates, and free African Americans against an experienced British army. Despite the numerical superiority of the British, Jackson's troops managed to win an overwhelming victory. This battle, which took place after the signing of the Treaty of Ghent that ended the war, became a symbol of American courage and determination. The Treaty of Ghent, signed on December 24, 1814, officially ended the war. However, the negotiations did not result in any territorial change. The treaty restored the status quo ante bellum. That is, things were put back to the way they were before the war. However, due to slow communication, fighting still occurred, including the Battle of New Orleans in January 1815. Nevertheless, the war had a profound impact on the United States. It led to a strengthened sense of national identity and the formation of the young nation's identity. The successful resistance against the British was seen as proof of the strength and resilience of the United States. The war also had political consequences. The Federalist Party, which had opposed the war and campaigned heavily in the New England states, lost influence and eventually disappeared from the political scene. the Democratic-Republican Party of James Madison and Thomas Jefferson became the dominant political force. Economically, the war led to the promotion of industrial development in the United States. The blockades and trade restrictions during the war had shown how dependent the American economy was on foreign goods. As a result, there was an increased movement toward industrialization and the creation of an independent economy. For the indigenous tribes, the war had devastating consequences. The defeat of Tecumseh and his allies and the British abandonment of their support for indigenous peoples led to a significant weakening of indigenous resistance movements. After the war, the United States increased its westward expansion, leading to further displacement and conflict with indigenous peoples. The War of 1812 was a complex and often misunderstood conflict that posed great challenges to the United States, but also helped to strengthen its national identity. The fighting and the resulting political and economic changes had far-reaching effects that significantly shaped the development of the nation in the 19th century. The war was not only a struggle for territory and honor, but also a catalyst for defining and solidifying the American nation. Thanks for watching. You can find even more videos on my channel. Activate the bell to never miss a new one in the future. See you soon, and bye-bye when we take another look at history.